Welcome to the Law Matters. Of course it does. Hi, I'm Debbie Moraes, your host and moderator. This program has been designed to educate, inform, and help you with the law matters because the law matters. Understand the law better, and you're in a better position to decide how to protect yourself, your family, and your business. As we say, we provide information and resources that'll help you determine whether or not you want to contact a lawyer. Perhaps there are some issues that you can handle yourself. If you do need professional counsel, our hope, of course, is that you'll be better prepared, and as a result, so will the professional that you select. Our goal, of course, is to help you save time, money, and achieve better results. The Bazar and Associates law firm in East Providence continues to offer their information, expertise, and insights, and once again, we want to welcome David Bazar. So, happy holidays, we say. For many consumers, Thanksgiving turkey, stuffing, football, all done, and now it's shopping time. So, attention shoppers, this is our time to tell you you're at risk. And with online shopping for Thanksgiving and Black Friday, $4.45 billion alone last year for e-commerce. So it says it's a big market just for those 2 days alone. This year, as we cover it every year, this year, cell phones, your mobile devices are the latest and greatest pots of gold for scammers. Those apps that are ever popular and oh so convenient, you need to be aware of them. Our goal today, of course, is to help you be aware of them and hopefully avoid some of the problems. We're going to share some of those latest scams with you and let you know that whether it's the Dollar Tree store, Coach, or even Salvatore Ferragamo, they've all been compromised, and as a result, many consumers have been hacked. Also, and as you toast to the holidays, which is fun, we want you to be aware about how you drink and how much you drink and what happens when you are the social host. You have a responsibility as a host and as a parent, and we want you not to have problems. It can be costly and, of course, as you know, sometimes tragic. So let's get to it. Let's start with shopping, David.
Okay.
What are the latest and the greatest that you've heard of lately?
Well, you were mentioning the apps that go on the phones.
Yes.
And I've heard about some compromises and scams and so forth with some of that. And I was wondering, I know usually with technology, I'm the last to know and what you can do with it and how it can help. But what is the benefit of using an app for a store as opposed to their website?
So stores have found that, and most people are finding that shoppers are choosing now to use the phone because it's with them all the time, and sometimes those little tablets, phablets, or whatever they call. So people want to have the opportunity to do seamless shopping anywhere, anytime that they choose. So retailers have made sure that their online app works on the iPhones, the Androids, and it makes it very easy for you to click and save. And interestingly enough, while marketers in the retailing business have wanted to monitor where the best form of consumer is coming from, they actually alter the price or the promotion in each of those different devices. So it has made people want to look at on their phones and on their mobile apps, as well as the website and their desktop at home. So apparently it's easiest for scammers to do a very fine job of replicating what that brand looks like. They can create that header, make it look exactly like a new landing page, and you are supposedly on that retailer's site, but you're not.
Right, and so we've talked about that in the past where the website is recreated, so to speak, so they make it look like you're on the actual website you want to be on. And I guess now they also, do they hack into the apps that are created, or do they create false apps that go on the phone?
Both. And interestingly enough, while Apple has been so good at letting so many new apps be part of their platform, as is Android, sure as shooting, many times Apple has found that they were willing to accept this seemingly fine and appropriate app, only to find out that the scammer will then change it and then use it for other malevolent options.
Purposes.
Yes.
So, of course, the answer is what we always say is be wary, research what you're doing, and in any event, if they require payments through a credit card or a debit card, always use a credit card. in the situation where you're buying something through an app or online or whatever. I play a little bit like I don't know anything about it, but I do use a local, say, coffee shop app. And it's convenient because there are some things to it that make it convenient, and it's order on the go, so you can place your order before you get there and it's ready when you get there. Some reward benefits and the like. And so I understand why people would want to use those. I understand the attraction to having some of those benefits and some of the ease of use. But always be careful. On that app where I mentioned it, it's a store card that is used to pay for everything, and then the store card is re-upped with a credit card.
Yes.
No debit cards involved, which protects you a little bit more than otherwise.
Yes. Remember in the past when we've talked about credit cards and the phishing schemes that have been tied to the banks. Also, when it comes to emails, we've said before that your average bank that might send you an email, if they ask for you to just click here and put in your PIN, never do it.
Right.
Similarly, e-tailers or e-commerce sites who have bona fide brick and mortar stores, they may send you a promotional coupon, but that's also an opportunity for someone who wants to scam you by email to say, click here, and when you do, they suddenly either get your information, they ask for your bank information, your card information, please confirm that you have this or you have won this prize or any of those things. The word is, as we've done with credit cards, they should check.
Right, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. It's really just another level of the same issue. And like we said, when you would get back in the day phone calls with people asking for information, don't give it. Then emails asking for information, don't give it. Text messages now perhaps through apps or whatever, or the apps themselves. I would never give the information out if it was requested from something like that, where I don't know exactly where it came from without verifying that I know exactly what it is. And with the emails, we said you could take a look at, even though they make it look like it's coming from the place, you can check beyond that to see where it was coming from.
And how would you suggest that someone do that?
Well, two different ways. One is if you're computer savvy and you know, and you can look at the information that's contained within it. It'll give you some hints, like if it's Bank of America and it doesn't say Bank of America, but some other kind of site name or whatever, I don't know the technical terms for what shows you where it came from, then you know. But I would always say, get the number and call and ask, is this legitimate? Did you send this?
Yes.
Is this something I need to deal with?
Yes, and of course the easy tip-off is if you happen to see any typographical errors or misuse of syntax and language, sure, shoot, and you're likely to have trouble. What about when someone does get hacked and their computer is taken over and people are held hostage? Do you get phone calls as a lawyer? What am I supposed to do? Should I be paying them? Do you get those kinds of calls?
Are you talking about those emails that get sent out saying that someone's away and is in the hospital and lost their wallet or whatever? Similar
to that, but when it happens now, you should click here because you'll get a new deal or a better deal on Pokemon Go or whatever.
Right. I stay away.
Minecraft.
Again, anything that comes to me that I didn't ask for, I stay away from. And if it's something I may be interested, I follow up outside of the computer or the phone or wherever I got it and check it out independently first and then decide whether it's something that's safe to follow up on.
Do you hear that people have been getting hacked and been victimized? Do they come to you as a lawyer and say, help me out, David?
Yeah, not usually. If they do, usually it's someone who needs to either go to, if it's a crime, and we talked about this before where people are told to go out, I remember it was like get gift cards or something and send it to us for your IRS bill or something.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right. And I think we talked about it before where the store manager said, no, I'm not going to sell you $1,000 or $500 worth of cards to pay your IRS bill. You need to go to the police department and report that. Same type of thing.
Apparently, just what you're saying has been making headline news. And the headline read something like, here's a big tip. The IRS will never ask for an iTunes gift card for payment.
Yeah.
And if they do, you should know that that's a scam.
Yeah. And again, so they do that for these other situations too, where it's your relative. They're saying, or your friend is stuck and needs money, but you have to send it by Toys R Us gift card.
It's hard to believe that people would fall for it, but some do.
They do. And sometimes it actually can be a compelling story that's told to someone, and they just get caught up in the emotion, which is the whole idea of what they're trying to do to you.
In the past, we've talked about gift cards, and certainly this is the season to do it. And whenever we want to help someone avoid the pitfalls of the bad gift card, often we talk about them as being something that happens at the retail store. Apparently, that's even more sophisticated technologically than ever. I think we should probably give people a little bit of information about that. Do you have a few thoughts you want to start with?
A little bit was, we had talked about the gift cards that were out on display, and they have numbers on them, and certainly if the number where it's covered is rubbed off, you know that there's a problem. And even buying the ones that you can't tell if they've been hacked or otherwise compromised, you've got to be really careful. I usually wouldn't buy a gift card that is in a display case. You'd want to go to the person at the register and see if there's something that they can give you that's a little more secure. But that's typically what we've seen. I'm sure it's gotten more sophisticated even still.
And isn't it interesting to hear now that at the next level, there are sometimes employees who are in on a scam where you may hand someone a gift card that you'd like to purchase. You hand it to the cashier, and if you're not watching it all the time, maybe you're fumbling in your purse or you're looking for something else or checking your bags, that employee could and has swapped them out with something that was fake. And so while you paid your $50, $25, or whatever it was, they've actually handed you one that was compromised, and what you have is something that is useless, and the scammer either sells it or uses it or however. So buyer beware, even from the employees at the cashier level. We wouldn't imagine that would happen.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it does, but probably the biggest thing there is, as you said, just be vigilant about, is this the card, did they put it in? Because it can be read. And I don't know if you can do this or not, but if you can, before you leave, there's usually a telephone number on the back to check the balance on it. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to call and check the balance before you leave.
Good suggestion, and apparently that's something that they're suggesting, as I read this, that's what they're suggesting this year too, because there are many who haven't. And back to the other thing that you mentioned about which one in the rack you buy, you don't usually pick up the one in the front, or if there are only 10, you might be more, you might be safer if you ask the cashier to give you one that they have at their desk, as long as they're not in on a scam, but you do have to be careful. And of course, apparently retailers have been more concerned these days, and they want to repackage themselves and put an extra layer of security. And yet, every time a new safety measure or precaution is taken, there's always someone who's ready to do that one into. So I guess it's easy enough for someone to look at it, but you should look at how it might have been blister packed. Did a razor cut underneath it? Has there been an extra scratch? Does it look like it's just been mishandled in any way?
You want to make sure it hasn't been tampered with as best you can.
This one's a peculiar one, David. If someone calls and says, I want to buy a new gift card, and you hear now that someone says, well, we'll just put this on a third party so that we can confirm it. Why would there ever be a reason for a third party other than it being a scam? If you hear that there's a third party, I would think that that would be an immediate trigger that there's something that's amiss.
I don't even know what that really means.
So,
what do they mean?
If you buy a gift card from a seller and you do it online and you want to, on the phone, and you want to confirm the number and the price and how you're paying for it, if you hear that someone is also being included in that for a verification, apparently there's no need for that, and you'd be right to ask, why would you need a third party
Right.
to be involved? If you ever hear that there's a third party on it, disconnect, hang up, and it's fake.
Right. Yeah,
likely.
I would absolutely think so.
Another word to the wise apparently is keep that activation receipt. So if you buy the card, make sure you have the number and the receipt until you hear that your daughter, cousin, sister, or
Yeah.
whomever has used it.
Yep.
Can they go back and trace that if someone else has used it? Okay, so you give your daughter a gift certificate for the holidays, and she says, gee, Dad, it's been used. What recourse do you have? What should you do?
Well, it's interesting. If you have a card that's from a major store, they should be able to track where it was used to show the history of what it was used for. And if you didn't use it, perhaps you could have some recourse with the store itself. But I found in a lot of these situations that it's not always easy to get the store or other people to do the right thing. And it reminds me of a case totally different, but again, similar in the sense that this fellow went to an ATM and he took out money from the ATM. It wasn't his own private bank, but it was, on the system.
Sure.
And I forget what he took out, but let's say it was $200 and they were $100 bills. And then he went to use them and they were counterfeit. So you would think that that was pretty easy to get resolved.
Yes.
Because it's an ATM and there's usually a camera associated with the ATM. There's a receipt, there's a time and place where he got it. And this was actually in a place that had security cameras themselves. So they could go to the security camera, see that he went to the ATM, got the money, he has the receipt, he then went to use the money, and it was no good. So to this day, he's still fighting to get his money back.
And that would seem like something that would be easily resolved.
Straightforward. There's cameras of the transaction. There's these receipts of it, as you say. But sometimes you just have to fight it. And again, I know another one, similar situation, where he had to go back. This happened. He's from Rhode Island. He had to go back to New York. He went back 5 times and eventually got it resolved.
Well, that's good. Another issue this year in particular, more people are trying to save, never mind at the toy store, but also when it comes time to buy gift cards, there are auction sites, of which I think eBay or Ebates is what it is, I guess, has an opportunity for you to buy more at less. And that sounds good, but they say buyer beware with that. And also there are other resellers who say, well, I just couldn't use this card. I want to sell it at a discount. If you go to some of those auction sites, again, you're supposed to beware because some of those are fraudulent as well. Yet another place for people to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, I'd always be leery of anything that looks too good to be true, because it usually is. And I can't use a gift card, so I'm going to sell it for a discount. It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It doesn't, and yet I guess these days people who are desperate have found new ways to scam.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those of us who aren't just shopping, but perhaps going to or hosting parties. Can you cover, again, briefly, what happens with social hosting laws and the DRAM laws?
Right.
What do we have to worry about?
And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but there's a couple of basic things. So we had situations in Rhode Island. This comes up a lot around prom time too. So it's, what is your responsibility hosting a party with adults? And what about underage children drinking? So there's certainly liability, even criminal liability, for hosting a party where children drink. And there was a little loophole in Rhode Island at one point in time where people had, the children were outside the house, and so it wasn't really covered. They closed that. So under no circumstances can you have a party where children are able to drink. Now, what's your liability if you have a party, a Christmas party, and adults come and they drink too much eggnog and they go and hurt themselves or somebody else? So if it's a private party in a home that you're hosting, there is no liability currently in Rhode Island for your action of having the party, because it's assumed that an adult is an adult and they're responsible for their own actions. So if the adult goes out and hurts himself or somebody else, that person, the adult who did the over-imbibing, so to speak, is going to be responsible for his or her own actions.
So you're not you, the host, are not criminally or civilly liable.
Correct.
What should you do? Just
Right.
take the keys anyway if you
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
someone's toasted,
And
so to
it
speak?
becomes now a potential negligence claim against you, not for serving the alcohol, but as a good lawyer, we're always looking for other ways around that. So I can't sue you for having a party where you overserve somebody, they go out and they hurt somebody or hurt themselves. But can I come up with some negligence theory where you did something that you normal, prudent, reasonable person would have done that you didn't do and could have done that was the cause of the incident? So the problem with the causation in that, because negligence is a 3 or 4 part step of did you have a duty to someone? Did you breach that duty? Was the breach of your duty the causal, did it cause the injury? And was there an injury? So it's the causal part in there that becomes the problem. Was it the person who drank too much? Was that the cause of the injury or the accident? Or was there something you could have done and didn't do that caused it? So like you say, make them take Uber, take their keys, do something. Is there something that you could have done or should have done that would have been reasonable, that might be a foot in the door for an attorney to sue you? So even though you might not have a social host liability issue, act prudently, act reasonably, and always try to think of what would the appropriate thing be to do.
Are you absolved of possible liability if you, instead of hosting a party at your house, decide to host it at a restaurant? Because then it's their liquor law,
Right.
it's their bartender who's doing the screening and shutting off if that's the
Right.
issue. Are you
Right.
better
So-
off then?
Absolutely, and especially in this circumstance. So we were talking about the Christmas party, which was I'm having my neighbors over, my friends over, or something like that. If we move it a little bit beyond that to the office party, and we're having a party at the office, so to speak, the Christmas party, and we're serving alcohol at the office, that might not fall under the social host law. There may be a number of other issues that can or possibly will get raised from could it fall under workers' compensation if somebody gets hurt at that party? Now,
good point.
typically, there's a lot of law on that says no, that it's not a workers' compensation situation, but maybe there are some things that go on there that might make it an argument, at least, if not actual workers' compensation claim. You know, I'm getting paid, I work for the company, I'm getting paid to tend the bar or do this or do that. Now, am I working? Is it something in the benefit of my employer, I should say, to do? So there could be something. But certainly, there's much more risk for a company to have a party, a Christmas party, that they host without perhaps, as you say, shifting that responsibility to a club or a restaurant that has a liquor license and has to follow all of the rules, who will then have dram shop liability if they overserve, whose bartenders are supposed to have been trained in tips, which is the procedure for knowing when to serve somebody or when not to serve somebody and what the proper procedures are, following all that. And so always, in my estimation, move the party from the office to a restaurant or a club.
Sounds good. And of course, always topping everyone's list is the issue about underage drinking, 18, 21, wherever the law is. So in the past, we've talked about this.
It is 21, isn't it?
It is 21.
I said 18 before.
But there are some states,
Yeah.
there are other places that
Yeah,
might have
no,
18.
it was
but
18
still,
when I was a kid.
actually, when I was in college, there was a time, one year it was 18, and then the next year it was 21. That was very interesting.
Yeah, but did they graduate it? Because I remember at one point in time, there was a group of people that kept graduating the age, but they kept missing out. So every year it would go from 18 to 19, up, didn't make it, 19 to 20, up, didn't make it.
We had plenty falling through the cracks,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So if someone, I have two sets of questions. One is, if you are the parent of an underage child and don't you have the right as a parent to serve your child a glass of wine or two? Can't you do that without being in trouble, David?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I do believe that in your home, with dinner, under the right circumstances, that a glass of wine to a 16-year-old child as, part of a celebration, it shouldn't fall into the lap of DCYF.
Okay. How about if you happen to be of European descent in which children are weaned on wine,
Well,
for
this
example?
is sort of what I'm thinking is customs, religious situations, those types of things. If it's done appropriately with supervision and as part of, a family custom or whatever, you're not serving alcohol to the next door neighbor's minor child. It's part of, this is what our family tradition and custom is. It's one glass of wine. There's no risk or danger being, I mean, I can see DCYF being concerned if we're talking about an infant or,
Yes,
a young child. I'm talking
certainly.
a 17, 16-year-old child who's part of, this family's tradition. I can't tell you with any certainty what a DCYF social worker sitting there would think about it, but if I was a family court judge, I would not think that there was something that was done incorrectly or inappropriately.
And for as much attention as is paid to all of this, in one state, the issue of a parent giving alcohol to a child who then has a problem is being changed from a felony to a misdemeanor. And in another state, as of December 14th of this year, you can't, as the parent, even claim that you just did not know that your child was in your home drinking or at someone else's home drinking without being liable. So there's greater accountability on one hand, and then in another state they're lessening the penalty.
Yeah, well,
interesting.
Yeah, the lessening of the penalty, I don't know what state it is or what the background is, but I'll tell you this. Sometimes there's overreaction, and a law is passed where we make it a felony, say, to do something with giving a glass of wine to your next door neighbor's child. Let's just say that's the case. And now the police, the courts, and everybody are reluctant to prosecute those cases because of the penalty being too big. So if you want to prosecute them, lower the penalty so that you're not reluctant to do that.
Certainly is still so much to talk about relative to that, and I guess it's going to continue. When it comes, one other quick question, when it comes to kids at college who host parties, are they liable if they don't ask each one of their friends for an ID? Can they be held accountable?
Well, they can be. If it's an 18-year-old, this is where we know there's an adult now, 18-year-old serving alcohol, they're an adult. They'll have the same responsibility of any adult serving their friends who are under 21.
And then their frequently asked question also among college students is, will dad be held responsible financially if I do something wrong, like host and give an underage person a drink and we're held up or we're
It depends on the
busted.
facts, when and where.
Okay.
College, maybe not if it's not under the parent control.
Good. Thank you so much. We hope you have a happy, healthy, safe holiday, and we hope that this has been helpful to you. Stay tuned to The Law Matters because it matters to you.